Hey, Jawad.
Hey Anu, hey Alan.
Hey, Alan, how are you?
Hi, Anu. I'm good, thanks. And you?
Doing good, thanks.
Hey, Joab.
Hey, good morning, Anu. This is Greg.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for joining our meeting.
Yep, you're welcome.
We'll give it another minute before we get started. Hopefully, Cliff joins us by then. Okay, it's 8:03. Let's just get warmed up. Oh, Cliff is here. Yay! Thank you, Cliff. So two topics I was going to cover today. The first one was going to be just to get us warmed up on what the global summit dates are, submissions, criteria, and specifications that Cliff will give us a good idea about. And then please, I've got a couple of questions from different folks, and we've got to figure out what our program is going to look like. We definitely want to talk about some of the new initiatives we have, as well as the progress we've made on some of our other work streams. So I want to make sure that we've got a good lineup of content as well as speakers. And the second topic is Gregory Selman is going to talk about the Open AI initiative at the OCP. There's been quite a bit of curiosity, and personally from my end too. So we'd like to know what the plan is and how we can get involved at some point, and how any of you individually or your organizations would like to get involved. So before we get that started, Cliff, it is all yours.
Well, thank you, Adam. So let me say that a lot of similarities to last year. The call for papers for the breakout sessions at OCP Global Summit is now open. It closes on the 15th, I believe. Let me just double check that before I give anybody a wrong date. It's a Monday of June. Closes the 16th of June is the last day to submit a proposal. So there's effectively 2 weeks left. The proposal is in the form of an abstract. And Anu, I'm assuming you're going to work with the folks in the community and the Workstream project leads to put in proposals. Certainly, if there is enough proposals, I would work to get a full day allocated like last year for the open chiplet economy. But as everyone knows, that's dependent upon the quality of the abstracts that come in. There's always competition. So please think about what you need to talk about. As Anu said, think about the new work streams that have launched, the existing work streams and updates that are required, the new interesting content. And please get your abstracts in for the breakout sessions. Now, Anu, I think you mentioned there was some question about future technology symposium. And the difference between the breakout sessions is at Global is that's work being done in a project that typically is on track for some sort of approved contribution at the OCP in the next 12 to 18 months. So I think most of the work done in the community here is more targeted towards the regular breakout sessions. But if there is some farther reaching research that someone wants to write about and put in a paper, 2-page IEEE formatted paper to the Future Technology Symposium, please go ahead and consider that as well. Please do not put in the same proposal for both. They're quite different, and one that would be appropriate for the breakout session would not likely be appropriate for FTS. The other opportunity, of course, at OCP Global Summit will be an Innovation Village station or area for the open chiplet economy. And again, we would like to do the same as last year and get to those. Now, those dates are a little further out. We have not opened yet the call for proposals for the Innovation Village. So stay tuned on that one. I suspect it will open in a couple of weeks. However, good time now for the group to start preparing on what would be the technology-oriented demonstrations that could be put forward in a open chiplet economy innovation village. Well, anyway, I'm going to stop there. I think that should cover much of it, unless there's some questions.
No, I got some questions about the FTS from a few folks asking if, what they had was more appropriate for an FTS. So if anybody wants to talk about it, Cliff's the best person to ask. But I think each of the workstream leads should probably this week, because you see the deadline is all deadlines are always around the corner. It's a June 16th deadline for submitting abstracts. Is that correct, Cliff?
That's right, June 16th. I believe it's end of day PT.
Okay. How does this stuff creep up so quickly? I don't understand. We were just in March.
It just takes that long for us to curate the content and get the schedule ready. And,
Yeah.
then we have to review all the presentations. And like it or not, we're kind of bumping into that. And next year, if everything goes very well, we'll also continue to do the Taiwan event in August. So we're going to be, putting out a call for papers pretty much right after Global for EMEA and right after EMEA for Taiwan and right after EMEA for Global, almost in one right after the other. So it's getting very, very busy at the foundation.
And this year's
Oh.
Global Summit, Cliff, it does start on Monday now, right? Officially?
That's correct. It is going to a 4-day event starting on Monday afternoon. There will be keynotes both on Monday afternoon, Monday evening, and on Tuesday morning.
Cliff, is there a like a repository or location where you have all the templates for, the abstracts and the, presentations and things like that, that you can point to? That would be helpful.
There is no particular template for the abstract. The abstract itself is really just a paragraph or two. So
Okay,
no template needed for that. For each year, we create a new template for the
presentation.
and the templates will become available when what happens is when the speakers are selected and notified, you'll then get an email with the information you need to prepare your presentation. That would include a pointer to the template.
Got it.
Usually also, if you go to the main event page at OCP website for that event, there's usually a speaker tab, and in there is usually the template as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Hey, Cliff.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Raghu. Thanks for that update. So I've got a couple of questions. Since we started about the FTS, the Future Technology Symposium, the format for that is that quite similar to like presentations that we do in the normal other tracks?
It is not. The Future Technology Symposium is more academic oriented. And so we actually asked for a 2-page IEEE formatted paper to be submitted. So that would be due in 2 weeks if you're going to put something in. Also, the Future Technology Symposium, those papers that are selected for presentation do have to do a PowerPoint or do a presentation. Also, we have posters at FTS, and so some of the papers that are submitted will be accepted both for a presentation and a poster. Some may be accepted just for a poster, and some will not be accepted. And all the posters are on display in the FTS area, which if you've ever been there, it's on the mezzanine level.
Okay.
And you could see all the posters were there on the boards, right? Those big wood stands, if you've been there last year.
Okay. No. So I think I understand the submission is the IEEE type extract, but then I think you answered my second part of the question, which is the actual day of the events. There's a combination of presentations as well as posters, and I'm assuming poster is a digital poster or is it a cardboard kind of like a paper-based poster?
Actually, I think we print them. I think they're on some sort of cardboard, thick cardboard.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just like a regular IEEE conference, Raghu, with
Okay.
people standing by their poster.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, sorry, coming to the second question that I had. So there is a topic that is being worked in the Chiplet tracks, and the topic that we believe could be of general interest to server community at large, not just the Chiplet track. Is there a way for us to make ask for the request to say, hey, can you please file it also, or can we give a presentation in the server track in general?
I guess it could be done. It would take away from your, well, then what would happen is it wouldn't be evaluated by Anu and Jawad as the program committee for the chiplets, right?
Okay.
You would get evaluated so you could flag it for the server track, but
Okay.
then you'll be competing with all of the other server proposals, and it'll be evaluated by the server program
Okay.
committee. So, will you get the same treatment? Will they see that as something they want in their track? That's something you'll need to take the risk on.
All right. No. Okay. No. That's fine. That's good. I mean, I think I said at least the topic that we believe is that we believe it will be of general interest outside of it'll be interest of chiplet track also as well. But we also believe it will be of interest to server track in general because we're doing some profiling analysis and all that. So that's why I wanted to see if there is any way to share that work, right?
Well,
So
we don't. Okay, so it's a good question. We typically don't like to see the same presentation in 2 places because we have such a high rejection rate. We need the slots for all the material. But really, the best way to present that to the server community is to ask for a slot on the server call that happens monthly and present there. Anyone's welcome to do that.
oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'll keep that in mind. And I thought this might be more of a 30-minute presentation. So, I mean, if the server slot on that monthly meeting can accommodate that construct, then okay. All right. I think, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and if not, we can find some other way perhaps
Okay.
to get your exposure in the server community. Maybe if you think you need more than 30 minutes and you get a good audience, we can maybe try to do some sort of webinar or some sort, not one of the educational webinars that we do, but some other kind of slot. We do have other ways to do a broader communication. We could talk about that as well.
Okay. Okay, Cliff. Thanks for that guidance.
And Cliff, each slot is a 20-minute slot, right? Just so people know what they need to, the abstract has to engage a 20-minute type slot with time for questions and answers.
That's partially up to you and Jawad. We prefer a 20-minute slot if there's a single speaker, because there's transition time that needs to be built in, right? So there's 2 or 3 minutes of fumbling with your laptop to plug it in. That has to come out of the 20 minutes. And if you want any Q&A, that has to come out of the 20 minutes. So in terms of talk time, you don't have, if you're looking for keep some time for questions, you have maybe 12 minutes of talk time for a speaker. Now, if you have 2 speakers, you've now split that in 2, so 6 minutes a speaker. It
Yeah.
almost doesn't warrant a speaker change. If we're going to have multiple speakers and we really do have content, then I would look more for 30-minute slots. Although
Yeah.
we will allow 2 speakers in 20 minutes. However, and sometimes we see that there's really one person doing the speaking and the other person is there because they've done the
Right.
work.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of you and Jawada and the program committee to manage that.
Okay, understood. Thanks, Cliff. I appreciate that. So I'm going to send this back to all the workstream leads to think about this next week. And I'm going to try to reach out to as many leads as I can next week to see what you think is worth sharing with the community as work we're doing that enables something for the greater community. I know a lot of groups already have this, so we just need to act pretty quickly. But the abstract is somewhat trivial because it's only 2 paragraphs, so it's not too bad.
Exactly. It shouldn't be a heavy lift if you've been working all along, right? And I would suggest that you and Jawad come up with a kind of a list of the folks you really want to submit because you think their work is the right work. And
Yeah.
make sure you send them an email and encourage them to submit.
Yeah, I will do that. I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware. We've got 2 weeks. We've got some great work, and the nice part is the amount of interest in anything Chiplet, starting from when I first attended a global summit to last year. It's been a tremendous increase in the interest.
Now, yeah. Also, Anu and Jawad, I think you're there too. Think about the fact that if there's 1 or 2 very high-profile speakers you would like to invite as a kickoff, please consider that as well. That's perfectly fine to do that. I wonder if there's someone from ASC, because advanced packaging has become so important now for chiplets,
Mhm.
to come and do a kickoff presentation could be really good.
Yep,
Or elsewhere.
we
Just
we
throwing
will
that
start
out
working
there.
on it.
Very good.
Thank you, Cliff. I appreciate it. Any other questions for Cliff? Excellent. I expect to see a whole lot of abstracts now. Thank you, guys.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
We really appreciate that.
Hey, Cliff,
do.
before you leave, I had put a question on the chat. What is the best way to reach you in terms of the email address? Any preferred email address?
Oh, my email address?
Yeah.
It's just cliff.grossner@opencompute.org.
Okay.
And by the way, all the staff, I believe it used to be that way, and I believe it still is. If you go to the website and you go to the staff page at the website, our email addresses are there in the open.
Okay, great.
Or just reach out to me, anyone who doesn't know how to get hold of Cliff. I know how to get hold of him.
She does.
Hmm.
All right. Thank you, Cliff. Thanks everyone
Okay.
for the questions. And we're going to move on to our main topic for the day. And Greg, it's all yours.
All right, thanks. To share. All right, hopefully that's coming through. So yeah, thanks
It is.
Anu, for inviting me to give an update on the Open Systems for AI initiative that's taking place within the foundation. And obviously, Cliff and I think I saw James on as well, who actually represent the foundation. If I go awry here, just correct me in anything I've done wrong. So as everybody knows, the foundation has had this Open Systems for AI initiative started, I don't know, early last year, I'll say. And just to recap, it is an initiative to kind of break down this this whole thing of AI, right? AI has taken over many parts of the industry, and as a foundation, we want to get ahead of that, see where we can provide value add, see where specifications can be created, right? Where invention happens. Can we leapfrog some of the things that are going on in the industry? For instance, the rack and the size, power and cooling capacity of the rack, right? Sub 100 kilowatt racks are commonplace today. If we think about AI, 2, 3, 4, 500 kilowatt racks are expected. What can we do around those? Can we think about megawatt racks, that kind of thing? So within this umbrella of Open Systems for AI, it was broken down into 3 main work areas, and I say 3. There's 4 listed there, but systems management was one area of focus. How these things, as they're built up and scaled out, how are they managed, both at an IT gear level as well as at a much larger level, either a rack level or a pod level. It was broken down into a data center IT infrastructure area, and I would describe that as everything in the rack and lower. So maybe the physical rack, then the IT gear canister, and then within that IT gear canister, what takes place inside of it would be where kind of the IT infrastructure focuses. And then data center physical infrastructure was the third kind of big umbrella topic. And like the data center IT infrastructure, I would describe it as the rack upwards. So inclusive of power into the rack, where we're going with power into the rack, cooling up into CDUs, cooling distribution units, busways for the actual data center, that kind of thing. And then there is a future technologies initiative here that if things, I would say, continue to evolve, right, there's a new umbrella piece that we need to go look at, right? That's kind of what that is reserved for. So those are the main areas that have been looked at, right? And then kind of a downward flow through the foundation, in that does something come out of these work areas? Can it be built up into a work stream or a project? And right out of that come contributions, and out of that, right, we wind up with stuff being adopted or in the marketplace, so on and so forth. So that's kind of the quick background. Yeah, go ahead.
Very quick question. So the idea would be to try to come up with some spec or I don't know, infrastructure form factor ideas, just like other OCP groups have, like NIC form factors.
Yeah,
That would
sure.
enable.
That's certainly one possibility. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then all of this now has a website landing spot. So that link there at the bottom is to the Open Systems for AI. It has its own drop down in the projects now, along with a wiki follow on. So that is that link there. So as far as the stuff that's taken place to date, yes, I totally glanced over it. There is a white paper that has been written and posted to or contributed to the OCP website. So if anybody on the call hasn't taken a look at that white paper, good white paper broken out into kind of those 3 main areas of focus with more detail about what's being considered, what's being looked at, et cetera. And I apologize, I can update the slide and put a link directly to that in the slide as well. But it started as a white paper last year, and out of that, we're attempting to hold a series of workshops, with each workshop being geared towards one of those three main umbrella topics. So to date, the physical infrastructure, right, that idea that it was rack upwards into the physical data center, has hosted 3 workshops. And all of the slide decks, presentations from different companies and vendors, the call itself is all recorded and is online. Each one of these workshop 1, 2, 3 with the underline is a link directly to the workshop page where you can get all that information. But back in April, we hosted their first workshop, and it was really built around, I would say, the ASIC providers and the hyperscalers or mega data center companies coming in and giving a point of view. What do they see on rack and power enablement? Are there headlights to 1 megawatt racks? Similarly, what are their thoughts around cooling enablement? Again, to really leapfrog where we're at today to 1 megawatt racks. And then at the data center level, what is the readiness for 1 megawatt racks? So I think we had talks from AMD, NVIDIA, Intel, Google, Meta, maybe Microsoft. But it was those kinds of institutions that gave the workshop kind of presentations for the first workshop. The second workshop built upon that and focused on market solutions and directions. So again, very power focused, very cooling focused, but all of the presentations and material for that workshop were from solution providers, from people that are doing CDUs, from the companies that are investing in 400 and 800 volt power, that kind of stuff. So that workshop, again, really built upon, I would say, the want, the direction, the feedback from the ASIC companies and the MDCs in the first workshop. This is kind of the comeback that said, look, we've heard you, we've been working with you. Here's some of the things that we're working on and, further directions where we see it going. And then not too long ago, was that maybe last week before, third workshop, again, built upon that, but focused more on the data center itself with some third-party colo institutions talking about their readiness for some of the things that are coming. Full liquid cooling, again, 400 volt or 800 volt rack distribution. How are they going to handle CDUs in line with the rack, that kind of stuff. So again, all of those workshops have already been held, very focused on physical infrastructure from the rack and up into the data center itself. And all of that information is on the OCP website in these different workshop locations. I'll pause there for a second. Any questions? All right.
Hey, Greg.
So what? Yeah.
I just let everyone know that I put a link in the chat to the AI section of the OCP marketplace, and
Okay.
the paper that you mentioned there and all the other pointers to the workshops and recordings, everything you're talking about can be found through that portal.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, and these blue hyperlinks in the preso that I shared should also work. But thank you, Cliff. Appreciate it. So what's taking place next? Where are we going next? Data center IT infrastructure workshop is targeted to be next. So John Stewie, who leads the server project in OCP, is helping to get that going along with myself and a whole bunch of people from the foundation, Rob and company. So we're targeting a workshop for June 23rd. So about a month away, which is a little short, but we're going to work to get there. And what we've come up with is a list of talking points, presentations, topics, with the thought being that there may not be a lot of, I don't know, a substantial amount of data on products themselves, right? I don't think we're going to go into these meetings and expect anybody to announce new CPUs or, architectures that are under NDA necessarily with certain companies. But I think what we're asking for is, what are the points of view of a lot of this stuff? New CPU and GPU architectures, right? So we're trying to get folks from NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, whoever to come talk about where these architectures are going, where we believe they're headed. How much more, how much more explosion of growth can we expect there? I think we can have a good conversation about the needs of 400 volt, 800 volt. Hopefully the conversation's a bit more geared toward inside the IT gear, inside the sled, rather than just delivering it to the rack. Right, if the rack is now 400 or 800 volt enabled, where do we see conversion happening? Do we see that happening in the IT gear, or is it in the rack before then being put back on the bus bar at similar voltages today? We want to talk about Ultra Accelerator Link and Ultra Ethernet. Right, those are two new up and coming standards protocols for interconnect. That's getting a lot of press in the industry, so we're hoping to get some speakers related to those. We obviously want to talk about how all of this stuff gets connected. That's obviously, maybe not so obvious, but that is certainly one of the largest problems in these scale up and scale out pods of 72, 144, 256 GPUs interconnected. It's an extremely large amount of interconnect. So are we looking at optics? We're talking about 200 gig, 400 gig interconnects. What are the cable and connector companies seeing there? There was a lot of discussion around thermal and cooling at the data center level. There should be equally as much discussion around that at the IT gear level. As power keeps growing, right? We've got 1500 watt, 2000 watt, 2500 watt ASICs coming. Liquid cooling is almost going to be required. So who's working on cold plates, manifold technology, 100% liquid cooled IT gear things that not only need to cool the GPU, but the memory, the DCSCM, storage, NIC cards, right? If we're going to go fanless, how do we cool all that stuff? And then we've got an idea if we'd find somebody to talk about chiplets, right? Open chiplet economies. Who's on the phone today, right? What's new? What's emerging there? How's AI impacting that? If we could get some discussion around that. And then lastly, memory technologies and modules. CPUs over the last couple of years, I would say, have really outpaced the level of innovation in memory. Right, it used to be 10 years ago that I could put a terabyte of memory in a system, but I only had a 4-core, 8-core, 16-core processor. So my core to memory ratio was, pretty easy to balance or figure out with DIMMs that weren't 256 gig DIMMs costing thousands of dollars a piece. That idea has kind of flipped on its head recently. 128 core CPUs, more than that coming in the future. Memory technology and density hasn't quite kept up recently. So what are the thoughts there? Right? Can we get some people from Micron, Hynix, Samsung to come in and again give a point of view on what they see and how we're going to handle that? So that's kind of what's up next in the near future. Right? June 23rd again is a proposed date. So kind of be on the lookout for information related to that coming from, like I said, Rob or others in the foundation. Any questions?
So I have a few questions, Greg.
Sure.
One is you talked about the short range optics. So are we talking now within a rack moving to optics? I know copper's been the golden child for a long time simply because it's cheaper and it works.
Right.
But it has limitations. So are we looking at now within rack optics?
I think that's certainly part of the conversation. I believe we want to stay in copper as absolutely as long as we can. just from a cost benefit and a power benefit. I think once we move to optics, right, at the moment, cost is higher and power is higher. We gotta drive that optic cable in some manner. But at the same time, 200 gig, 400 gig, 800 gig, even across the distance that is a rack, is becoming more and more difficult. So that
Yeah.
short range optics, yes, within the rack, with that, and extending outside the rack, but yes.
Thank you. Another question is, you talked about these new memory technologies and modules, and you talked about Samsung, SK Hynix. So these are basically HBM vendors, and we've reached some point at HBM where they've got a gazillion number of DRAM stacked. So are we looking to just expand that, or we're looking for something brand new and different in a wide I/O type mode that HBM supports, or just asking out of curiosity here?
I think it's open to interpretation. I think what you hit upon is good. I don't think we have to limit ourselves to just the HBM, but right, DRAM modules as well, DIMMs. Right. So yeah, we're stacking HBM and as much memory as we can close to the CPUs and GPUs. But I think there's a gap on the actual system side too, with the DIMM modules needing to grow as well. So that
Okay.
that one's not quite my area of expertise, but I can imagine, right? Yeah, we'd like to hear from anybody in the memory technology that's got ideas or thoughts about where we're headed, how we're going to kind of, I don't want to say rectify, but come to terms with a 256 core GPU. How do I maintain, 4, 8, maybe 16 gigabytes per core for a workload? Does it seem like it's easy to do nowadays without being extremely expensive? Are the memory vendors seeing CXL begin to take off? Right, there's been a lot of talk for years about CXL, disaggregated memory, that kind of thing. Is it going to take off? It's been kind of slow in my opinion, but I don't know.
Understood. And then the sort of a very high level question is, if you look at the list of talking points you have here, each one is a humongous project by itself. And so how does the work stream, how does this OSAI actually work? Do you have experts in each of these who are working with you, or are you depending on other folks? Because, like optics there's a whole, I know there is a SROI group at
Right.
OCP. Is that a collaborative effort? I'm just trying to understand how you're structured as a high level project.
I, I don't know, Cliff, if you want to help answer this.
Yeah, sure. So
Go ahead.
the OSAI strategic initiative, the Open Systems for AI strategic initiative, has no people in it. The people in it, like Greg, are coming from the projects. And so any chiplet expertise in the OSAI comes from this group.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes perfect sense, because, like I said, each one of these is such a large area by itself,
Yeah.
and no one person can cover, I think, more than two of these, given the expertise needed in each one of them.
Oh, 100%.
You could imagine, Anu, when we were setting this up, we had one option, which was to break up every project and create OCP that it was nothing about, was just about AI, or to keep
Yeah.
projects and create an umbrella where the umbrella is really coordination amongst the projects and leveraging the expertise in the projects.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's a very vast array of topics here.
Yeah. So in terms of getting this workshop off the ground for June 23rd, we are absolutely asking for help. So if anybody on this call feels like they have expertise or a point of view to share in any one of these areas, I think we'd be happy to hear from you.
Yeah. If I could make some suggestions to the group here, based on what I know about the work being done and know about the goals of the Open Systems for AI strategic initiative, I would think that something on the next generation of bunch of BOW that talks about optical interconnect and the HBM memory interconnects, the next rev, would be really exciting to talk about. I think that some of the modularity work, targeting, boosting the performance with specialized hardware could be important for people to know about. If Jawad is up for it at some point, I even think abundance of wires is a good subject for discussion here in terms of the work going on within the group. Would certainly, in my mind, form a module around the work that would directly impact or feed into the next generation of systems that are supporting AI. Maybe there's others. That's all that I could think about. I don't know if there's any around some of the test work or the system integration work that's worth mentioning.
Yeah, the system integration work could be interesting because that is one of the targets, of course, is HPC and AI type systems, and the goal is you've got all these disparate chiplets together, including memory. How do you put them together and have a fairly reasonable confidence that the darn thing's going to work together? And that's the goal of the group, is to try to provide a framework for how to go about it. And some of the work that Raghu was talking about is at an even higher level, or system C type simulations of the pieces that need to talk to each other. So I think everything we're doing is trying to solve this, not necessarily only for an AI type application, which is what this is targeting, but for other applications. But definitely see an in here. Anyone else have comments from the respective teams, work streams?
No, I'm not obviously from one of your specific work streams, but as you know, I'm adjacent on the system side with the OCP HPC. Just looking at all this, actually, Greg, I think it might be worth a representation of what we've done in the OCP HPC over the last few years, because it has taken that system perspective across all of these areas. And maybe it would be worth a fresh look at that. So I would be prepared to update my presentations if there's a slot available.
I think the question, Alan, would be if it's a 1 megawatt rack, how do you fit in? Are you a compute tray in that 1 megawatt rack? What does that look like?
Yeah, so this would be a little bit more on the radical side of why are we still in racks as well, So, but it could be applicable to the rack. We've been looking at that as well.
It'd be helpful if you could relate it to where the group is headed for now.
Yeah. Well, we are looking at rack versions of it for sure.
Right, because one of the actions that, if you read the white paper, which I think you have actually, I think you've been in.
Yeah. No, you contributed. Yeah. Well, we have worked on rack versions for sure.
Yeah. So there's a work around looking at commonalities for defining a compute tray, and what if one of those trays would look like what you've been talking about.
Yeah. Well, I was working with Bijan as well on a tray version of it, with like 12 modules in a tray. So yeah, no, I could certainly make sure that's part of the presentation. But I think it's the wider system level aspects there to the module itself, which I think might be pertinent, as opposed to the actual, the aggregation of the modules. But anyway, if there's a slot, I could pull something together.
Yeah, Alan, Greg, I think the route we're following, right, is if anyone wants to propose something, to put a note together and send it to Rob. He's taking charge of collecting the proposals.
Yes. Yeah. If you want to send something to Rob Coyle, Alan.
Rob Coyle. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. And I know maybe you and Jawad could talk with some of the project leads. It'd be awesome to have a small section for chiplets and the work that this project is doing as part of it.
Absolutely. So yeah, not to worry. Already on my list of things to send an email to my favorite Workstream leads.
All right.
You're gonna hate me after a while, but
And the other thing is, if you notice that we had several workshops for physical infrastructure, no reason why we can't have a number of workshops on IT infrastructure, where the June 23rd one is the first one.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll kind of see what kind of feedback we get on this list, and if it grows, then yeah, Cliff, I agree. We should definitely look to more workshops.
Yeah, I think also, Greg, let you know, myself, Rob, and James are going to have a quick call on Monday to make some additional suggestions for you guys of people we think we should invite to speak.
Okay, cool. All right.
hey, Greg, I had another question, and this is to do with the power. That's another big topic in terms of how do you even power these darn things.
Right.
And then after that, of course, once you power them, now you got to cool the darn thing. But I know that's another big topic, and it's a beast by itself. With folks saying that they need a little nuclear power plant right next to a data center. So, is that some part of this conversation in terms of you need your 400 volt, 800 volt coming in? How are you acquiring that?
Yeah, so that was part of the data center level discussion in the previous 3 workshops. So that was kind of the rack up into the data center itself. So some of that has been covered. If anybody wants to go back again and check out the presentations from the previous workshops, I think you'll find some of that in there. And then I think obviously if there's still questions, maybe we get those to I'm drawing a blank on his name from Google. Who helped put together who helped put together the workshop, Cliff?
You mean Rob from the foundation?
Rob from the foundation, but Madhu from Google. But yeah, some of that stuff anew has been covered. So if there's additional questions about what was in the previous workshops, just let us know.
Yeah, no, mostly interest, just curiosity on how on earth we're going to power the beast.
Yeah. Agreed. That's a big leap to go to 400, 800.
Yeah. Power the beast, cool the beast. Yeah, we got lots of
Yes. So that was the last slide. The last slide was that data center management would obviously it's TBD, right? After we work through IT gear infrastructure, we'll get to management workshop, but I don't have any information related to that yet.
And one question about the workshop that you're planning. What is the structure here? Is it a full day? Is it half a day? Is it 2 hours? And everybody
So
gets
yeah, it's been a mix of those. The first one went quite long. It was almost a full day, several hours, with a break in between, kind of broken up for the different pieces and parts. And then the third one, I believe, was only a half a day, but they're virtual, so no travel required. The presenters can present from wherever they want. Right, and we'll have a set agenda, hopefully a couple of weeks prior, so we can work on moving time slots and stuff around. And again, we'll try to group together similar topics. So short range optics, cable connector technologies, right? It's an hour, 2 hour slot, and cooling is a slot where we won't be totally random. But yeah, it's all virtual.
Okay. Yeah, so good for the team to know if whoever wants to share what we're working towards, which could be part of this, it's virtual, and of course how much time we have will be, I'm guessing, based on how much interest you get and how many topics you have and what you feel are the priorities that need to be covered.
Yeah, almost everybody we've given at least a half hour of talk time to.
Okay.
We don't want people to have to rush through 15 minutes or something like that. So every talk has been at least a half hour.
Understood. That makes sense. And so Rob's the guy we sent our potential abstracts.
If you have abstracts, additional talking points that you think fit with, again, IT infrastructure, send it to Rob. He'll copy myself and John Stewie and the rest of the people working on it.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Any other questions for Greg? Well then, on that note, thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciate you coming in, and I know
Yeah,
you
thank
had to
you.
work around some schedules, but I appreciate it. And this is, I think, timely given we're trying to put our abstracts for the global summit. I think it could also play into this one and then increase some interest in our stuff at the global summit too. So I think it ties in well.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Cliff, for the support.
You're welcome.
Is there
All
any
right.
other thing, any other topics we want to talk about here? Otherwise, we will be done 11 minutes early today. Thank you all. I will reach out to the Workstream leads and let's focus on Global Summit for the next 2 weeks to make sure we've got a good program. And thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anu.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.